The culture's amazing, the food is great. Having somebody there who's on the foreigner's side would help a lot.
Hi everyone, I'm Jay from SmileHome and today we're here with Lee. Could you tell everyone a bit about yourself, Lee?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm originally from the US, born and raised in Boston. I've always wanted to live abroad. So after university, I made it an effort of mine to start my career, but then eventually leave the US. So back in 2015 actually, I got the working holiday visa and I actually lived in Australia for 9 months. When I was living there, I was like, oh, this is good, but it's kind of similar to the US. I want something very different. So I actually found a job online working in Vietnam as an English teacher. Never had any experience. I was only supposed to stay there for 2 years, ended up being there for 7 years. And that's because I met my Japanese wife while living there. In Vietnam, the visa situation can be up and down depending on the government and how they feel. So I actually decided to move to Japan with my wife because visa would be a lot easier. So I'm here on the spouse visa, running my own English company and trying to build a startup at the moment. So yeah, staying busy, but yeah.
Very cool, very cool. So what made you want to come to Japan and how would you describe your experiences here so far?
I've always wanted to live in Japan. I've been fascinated with the culture and also especially the car culture growing up. My brother and I loved playing with cars and especially Japanese cars. So I've always had ties to Japan in the sense I've always wanted to live here. The culture's amazing, the food is great. My wife being Japanese makes it a lot easier for me to be here. It's well known around the world as being just this great place to live, super clean, super safe, very efficient. So that's kind of been the draw for me coming to Japan. With regards to how it's been so far, it's been awesome. Every time you move to a new place, you can kind of recreate yourself. Before I was an English teacher in Vietnam the whole entire time, but here I've really made an effort to really get into the community. I've been hosting monthly workshops and networking events and things like that. So I've been really growing my community here and getting a name for myself in the community, which has been great.
And with your experience here, have you faced many challenges so far?
Oh, absolutely. It's very, very difficult to get a place to live if you don't have a job. So originally my wife and I wanted to just move here and decide which city we're going to live in and then find jobs. In the US, in Australia, and Vietnam, you can do that for the most part, right? No, not here. You must have a job because in Japan, unlike other places, there's this thing called a guarantor company. And what that guarantor company does is, let's say I default on I don't pay my rent. That company will pay the rent for you, but they're not going to deal with just anybody. So it was very difficult. We had savings for 4 years worth of rent, but they were like, no, we're not going to rent to you. So we got rejected 4 different places before landing on the one that we're in Kamakura right now. So definitely renting a place is a challenge. Language is a challenge as well. Obviously my wife speaks Japanese. I don't at the moment. Mine's very minimal. But compared to Vietnam, right, where a lot of people speak English, here it can be quite challenging if you're not in the city.
So here at SmileHome, we try to streamline the home searching process and we really help foreigners overcome challenges related to housing. So would you say a service such as SmileHome would be a great tool for foreigners looking to move to Japan?
Yeah, I wish I knew about it before. Honestly, it would have made our transition a lot easier. My wife, she speaks Japanese and she could deal with the realtors and stuff, but if I was by my own, I couldn't, right? You're stuck only dealing with realtors who only speak in English or English and Japanese, and then you're tied to whatever they want to fit you in terms of the homes. It might not be the best deal for you, they might charge you more, right? Things like that. Another thing is just having somebody to understand what fees we need to pay.
Yeah.
I don't know if your listeners know about this, but key money is something where when I first heard about it, I was like, what? We have to give a gift to the landlord. So my wife and I were only looking at places that didn't have key money, allowed pets, and that was quite a challenge for us. It took us a month to find a place. So I definitely think having somebody there who's on the foreigner's side would help a lot.
Well, thank you so much for your insight. Before we wrap this up, do you have any advice or anything you wish you knew before moving here?
Yeah, the whole getting a job before, I would definitely recommend to everybody. Learn a little bit of Japanese. I think it helps a lot. Even if you just ask them, do you speak English and Japanese, it definitely goes a long way. Just having enough savings. It's not somewhere where you can just show up and be like, hey, I'm going to live here. You need a good like $5,000, $6,000 in order to fully move into Japan. So, and then definitely hit up SmileHome. I think, SmileHome would definitely help you get an easier transition into the country, which would be great.
Well, thank you so much for today. I'm sure your insights and will help other people who are looking to move into Japan. I'm sure it will be very helpful for them.
Sure, of course.